Today on Investigate TV Plus, it's a form of abuse 1 in 4 women face. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich, an in-depth look at the push to end domestic violence and how new training for old friends could help save lives.
How are you feeling?
We're able to see them consistently month after month, year after year, and there's a real bond that's formed.
Plus, the painful grip of opioid addiction.
It's heartbreaking because that's not something that you can fix for your child. You can't fix it. So it's hard.
How a family is turning heartbreak into a powerful message and warning for other parents.
Then an opioid alternative.
This to me is my lifeline, my lifesaver.
How a new procedure is helping patients avoid addictive prescription painkillers. In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus. As this story begins, take a look at your watch or the clock in your home. And now, consider this.
According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, about 20 people per minute are abused by an intimate partner in the U.S. 20 people every 60 seconds. That equates to more than 10 million victims each year. It can happen to anyone, regardless of race, gender, age, or socioeconomic status.
Experts say community support can be key to breaking a cycle of abuse.
And as reporter Heather Graff explains, that's led to a new push at the national level, looking at hair salons as a potential safe haven.
I know, right? I've been in this industry for 42 and a half years.
In this Maryland hair salon, longtime owner Lisa Lane views each customer as family.
One of my clients described my salon as being like on the show Cheers, where everybody knew your name.
She says it starts the moment someone walks through the door. And that relationship grows stronger as clients spend time in her chair,
Isn't that something?
returning regularly for their next color or cut.
That relationship, it can last forever. You know, and they trust you.
And in Nashville, Tennessee, hairstylist Suzanne Post has experienced the same.
How are you feeling?
We're able to see them consistently month after month, year after year, and there's a real bond that's formed.
A bond that can allow conversations about tough topics like domestic abuse.
We can also be in that special position because of that trust to hear if something isn't quite right.
You see, Suzanne herself is a survivor of domestic violence, and she knows the statistics. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men will experience it at some point in their lifetime.
I knew firsthand how confusing that can be, how difficult it is to spot the signs in your own life.
So she was intrigued back in 2017 when a first-of-its-kind law took effect in Illinois that requires cosmetologists, nail technicians, and estheticians to receive domestic violence awareness training as part of their licensing process.
Because of my personal experience and my professional experience, I was incredibly inspired to bring that to our state here in Tennessee.
By October of that same year, Suzanne accomplished her initial goal, partnering with the YWCA of Nashville and Middle Tennessee to launch a program they call Sheer Haven.
So it is educating people about the signs of domestic abuse and how to respond appropriately, how to direct people to the resources that are out there and to the trained professional.
The free classes started out small and in person, but soon expanded to an online platform.
Perhaps the number one sign that you are in a unique position to see as a beauty professional are unexplained injuries or bruises.
Then in 2021, Suzanne's work led to the passage of a Tennessee law that makes the training mandatory for licensed beauty industry staff there, as it is in Illinois.
When the governor signed the bill, it was so powerful.
And now there's a new effort to take that approach nationwide. In late 2023, Senators Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee and Tammy Duckworth of Illinois introduced bipartisan legislation called the Salon Stories Act citing success they've seen in their home states.
This is another way to help protect individuals and to help break that cycle of abuse.
Senator Blackburn says the bill would not mandate domestic violence awareness training for salon workers across the country. Instead, it aims to act as an incentive by providing federal grant money to states that put the requirement into place.
Why not mandate it for states?
I think incentivizing it is the better way to go, and that's what Senator Duckworth and I felt like would be the most productive.
Senator Duckworth, in a statement, called it a common-sense way to help even more beauty professionals better recognize the signs and successfully navigate conversations with clients who could be in danger.
I hope that it incentivizes many states to follow suit.
And the National Network to End Domestic Violence has voiced its support as well.
Every piece adds to the bigger picture.
The organization's interim CEO and president telling us she believes salons can serve as additional access points for abused women who too often feel isolated and alone.
Where someone would recognize, oh, this might be a safe place to talk. And then most of the time, the abuser is not in that space.
Do you think this could save lives?
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
In the meantime, back in Maryland,
You want to see how beautiful?
Lisa Lane says she'd like to see a state law where she lives, but she's not waiting for it
It was something that I was determined to do.
because she'll never forget the first time she sensed a client in need.
But her demeanor had changed somewhat. She wore glasses, had a black eye.
Not long after that exchange, Lisa voluntarily took a domestic violence prevention class through the Professional Beauty Association that's called Cut It Out.
We're just there to be a safe place for them, to provide resources for them. They're protected here.
And with that training, plus educational pamphlets and flyers now stocked in her salon, this hairstylist stands ready to help.
Absolutely. And now I feel like I'm more equipped to handle it.
Now, it's important to note the laws on the books in places like Tennessee and Illinois do not require beauty professionals to report suspected violence to authorities. The laws also protect them from any liability.
Our in-depth coverage continues with several resources available right now. If you work in the industry and want to learn more about free online domestic violence awareness training, go to sheerhaventraining.org. If you or someone you know is in crisis, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Just call the number on your screen. That hotline was started back in 1996 and has fielded more than 7 million calls in the years since.
Still ahead, after suffering a traumatic brain injury, a man who loves poetry and reading it aloud thought he'd never be able to again.
I had plenty of days at the hospitals where I was just crying and staring out the window, wondering if life would ever be the same again.
I was using his love of language to regain a simple skill many take for granted.
Today, tomorrow, your tongue will be twistier. Try tough tongue twisters today.
Plus, families forever affected by fentanyl.
It is a parent's worst nightmare to lose your child, and especially when you know they are going down this road that is not healthy for them.
Parents share their grief in hopes other families start a conversation before it's too late. You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime, streaming online. Get the app for Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. They're free to download.
Chances are you know someone impacted by opioid addiction.
According to the National Institutes of Health, 3 million people in the U.S. suffer from opioid use disorder. According to the CDC's most recent estimates, in 2021, opioid overdoses killed more than 80,000 people. That's one person every 7 minutes. The agency says synthetic opioids like fentanyl made up almost 90% of all opioid overdose deaths. And if you don't think it could happen to a loved one, an Alabama family wants you to think again.
Reporter Josh Gaunt introduces us to one family forever affected by fentanyl.
T.J. McCarver loved being outside. He was a worker bee and rarely idle.
He loved life. He loved his family and friends. He loved the outdoors. He loved to hunt and fish, anything to be outdoor and just busy.
And it was something about his smile that his parents say lifted those around him.
TJ had a smile that lit up the room. People talk about the time, how they remember his smile.
Behind that smile was a hidden sadness that led him down the road of addiction that started in college.
And it started off just as pot, smoking marijuana with friends and stuff, and just kind of went from there.
We're told TJ tried just about everything. But his drug of choice became pills. He then moved to heroin.
I knew then that this was very serious and just, devastated, absolutely devastated.
It's heartbreaking because that's not something that you can fix for your child. You can't fix it. So it's hard.
Just a couple of years later, in 2018, their worst fears became reality. TJ was behind the wheel when he ran into the back of an 18-wheeler just north of the Walker Chapel Road exit. In his system at the time, a combination of drugs, including fentanyl. You can see and feel Todd McCarver's pain when they got the call that TJ was dead at age 27.
It is a parent's worst nightmare to lose your child, and especially when you know they are going down this road that is not healthy for them. You anticipate that something bad's going to happen all the time, but you're never ready for it when it does.
TJ's dad is a fire medic. He had a gut feeling that one day his son could overdose.
I can't tell you how many times I've responded to that call myself, and to see that. And I'm glad, on one hand, it didn't happen that way, just because it's just hard. It's hard for the family.
The McCarvers, including TJ's sister Taylin, now turning their grief into purpose. They want the community to know about TJ's journey. He battled addiction for 8.5 years.
If there's one conversation that I can have that'll save one life, then that's more than I could ask for. So nobody's too far gone in their battles with addiction to just give up on them.
What do you say to families who may say, look, this can't happen to my family?
Honestly, I would say wake up. It happens and affects more people than you realize. Be aware of what's going on right now. With me working at a university, and I used to coach young athletes, they're seeing it in the high school. So I think, one, to be aware that it can happen to you, but also to be preventative for your kids and let them know you're gonna go off to college, you're gonna go to parties, it's inevitable if you go to parties now, but you have to be so cautious, but also realistic with them, to let them know that it is a real threat, because some kids may think they're invincible until it's too late.
We're in a club that nobody wants to be in. And it takes God's grace and strength to help us through it. We decided that when we lost TJ that we wouldn't let his name die in vain.
The hardest thing I ever had to tell TJ, I said, I can't fight for you another day. I just can't. I said, I cannot. I've got my own problems. Your mom and I are having problems. I've got your sister. I've got a lot of things. I can't fight my battle in your battle. I can't. I said, and I'm not. I'm not gonna fight for you, not one more day. I said, but I will fight with you the rest of your life if you will fight. You have to make that choice.
Addiction can happen to anyone, no matter where you live. There is help and there's hope.
Because as long as they're alive, there's always hope.
A piece of my heart lives in heaven. That's the sign that hangs in the McCarvers' kitchen. It's that faith that keeps them going.
It's one of those things where people say time heals, and time does heal, but you don't get over it, you just learn how to live without it.
According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, 80% of people who use heroin started with prescription opioids. For patients who want to avoid opioids, doctors are turning to a different kind of therapy.
This nerve, it's kind of like right in that zone. More patients were coming to us saying we wanted some better alternatives, and we knew that we could be doing a better job of providing better post-operative pain management for them.
How this procedure is giving patients in pain hope for the future.
Plus,
Eddie adamantly evaluates every entryway intern.
Wordplay works wonders.
Gloomy suey chews chewy gooey chewing gum glumly.
How this man's using tongue twisters to triumph over trauma. Our in-depth coverage continues. You can get connected to Investigate TV Plus on all social media platforms. As an opioid crisis unfolded across the country, in 2016, the CDC released a new set of guidelines cracking down on how doctors can prescribe the drugs. It left some of the 50 million Americans who suffer from chronic pain wondering how they could get relief.
A woman in South Carolina found that relief in a new type of procedure that's pretty cool, literally.
Reporter Carrie Beal shows us how it works.
Anxious but hopeful. That's how Sue McClellan describes her feelings right now.
This to me is my lifeline, my lifesaver.
She has arthritis in both knees, and the pain has gotten so bad that her doctor recommended a knee replacement. But that's not an option she wants right now.
My husband has just had a urostomy and depends on me for his care. And I'm not a candidate for a replacement due to the downtime.
So we use ultrasound, we use this, and then kind of landmarks.
Spartanburg Regional Health orthopedic surgeon Greg Colbath told her about a procedure called Iovera.
More patients were coming to us saying we wanted some better alternatives, and we knew that we could be doing a better job of providing better postoperative pain management for them.
A handheld device is used to freeze the nerves so patients don't feel pain.
This nerve, it's kind of like right in that zone. It's not.
We got the chance to sit in during the procedure.
So basically it has little three prongs there that will then go underneath the skin, and we'll place this right here.
Patients are awake and it usually takes about 30 minutes.
It doesn't destroy the nerve, but it just stuns the myelin sheath, or the conduction pathway for the nerve. So the nerve can still regenerate. It'll take it about 6 months to do so.
But the real benefit of this technology is to not just get rid of the knee pain, it's to replace the need for opioids. Doctors can freeze the nerves before a big surgery.
We'll do the procedure a couple weeks prior to the surgery so they have maximum benefit, so that once we've done the total knee replacement, they are already seeing some of the benefits of the pain relief.
McClellan says overall, it wasn't that bad.
Can you feel that?
No.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to numb.
The only painful part of the procedure is probably the anesthetic injections. That, be honest with you, that really hurts, but the actual Iovera, really no pain.
And now she feels better knowing she can be there for her husband.
Be a miracle to me, make, our life, I'm talking about mine and my husband's life, so much more easier for me to care for him and do daily things for myself.
Dr. Colbath says most patients are eligible for the procedure, barring an infection or autoimmune disease that prevents wounds from healing properly.
For people who suffer from chronic pain, the American Society of Anesthesiologists lists some other opioid alternatives, like physical therapy, acupuncture, or steroid injections. You may even need another surgery to correct what's responsible for the pain.
Still ahead on Investigate TV Plus.
Vicious Victor vanquishes vile villains.
Don't get tongue-tied.
Eddie adamantly evaluates every entryway entered. Oh my God.
Oh, it's hard.
That was really tough.
How this man's narrow escape from death helped inspire his road to recovery. You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime streaming online. Get the app for Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. They're free to download. According to the CDC, 1.5 million Americans sustain a traumatic brain injury each year. Depending on the severity, it can cause life-altering symptoms, including loss of speech. A Kansas man who suffered a TBI was able to regain his speech abilities with a game.
Reporter Grace Smith shows us how he's hoping to share that game with the world.
Today, tomorrow, your tongue will be twistier. Try tough tongue twisters today. Tomorrow, your tongue will be twistier.
Noah Weaver loved to public speak and write poetry, but on May 27th, 2022, everything changed.
I had a car crash. that led to a traumatic brain injury.
Noah was life-flighted to a local hospital where he woke up a week later. Not knowing where he was, he couldn't move and could barely talk.
I had plenty of days in my room at the hospitals where I was just crying and staring out the window, wondering if life would ever be the same again.
After a few weeks, Noah was transported to Madonna Rehabilitation Hospital in Nebraska.
He worked with me instantly on just the classic tongue twisters and all that to improve my pronunciation and my diction. Gloomy suey chews, chewy gooey chewing gum glumly.
So Noah began pushing himself.
Every day for my 4 therapy, or I just try to keep my mindset as, no, I will get better. Miller's Realist Silver.
Doing tongue twisters.
Eddie adamantly evaluates every entryway entered.
Over.
Eddie adamantly evaluates every entryway entered.
And over again.
Eddie adamantly evaluates every entryway entered. Oh my God, that was
hard.
That was really tough.
Within weeks, his speech improved drastically, and he wanted to do something to help others. And since he's a writer, he knew exactly what that would be.
I'm gonna start making a card game.
And on those cards,
Vicious Victor vanquishes vile villains.
tongue twisters that he wrote.
Caught callous culprits ceased climbing cliffs. I'd hope to make it more fun. I'd hope to make the world a lighter, brighter, better place with this.
I think I may be ordering that game for myself.
Yeah.
I struggle sometimes talking.
Those were
tongue
some
twisters.
Tough tongue twisters.
Say that 3
Tough,
times
tough
fast.
tongue twisters.
There you
Yeah.
go. You got it.
Well, that's going to do it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Tisha Pell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. Thanks for watching.
On the next Investigate TV Plus, attacks against healthcare workers are on the rise.
Some of our nurses are actually changing their professions, questioning their purpose as a nurse.
We investigate what's being done to address it and explore the debate over punishment versus prevention.